Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Tuesday Nights. My name's Turts. I'm your host for this evening, as I am each and every week. I'm up and about this week. I'm really, really excited. Thank you so much for joining us, Mate to Mate at 8, where we talk, get two guys on the phone, talking to each other, asking each other how each other's day is out of 10. Now, as I said, my name's Turts. I'm the proud co-founder of 100 Words Mate to Mate, a men's health organisation who's raising awareness about the plight of men's health in this country, which is absolutely horrendous. More than 6.5 men take their own life in this country each and every day. And we, here at 100 Words Mate to Mate, are doing what we can to draw attention to that and make guys aware and comfortable to be able to come out and talk open and honestly. Now, when you get on tonight, tell us how your day's been out of 10. Okay, and we'll go through those poll results later on tonight. Now, I say this each and every week. I am not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. I'm, in fact, a painter by trade. Okay, so what we're trying to do here tonight at Mate to Mate at 8 is we started a campaign about 15 weeks ago called How's Your Day Out of 10? So, the rules of engagement are this. When you ring a mate, we want this to be part of your daily routine. When you ring a mate, we want you to ask your mate, don't ask him, g'day mate, how you going? Say, g'day mate, how's your day been out of 10? He will give you a number, okay? Hey, we've had a whole lot of people join up already. That's fantastic. He will ask you, you ask him how his day been out of 10, and then he will ask you. He will give you a number. Then you've got a really good indication on how his day is actually going. Now, we've got a whole lot of people jump on already. We've got people who have had a 10 out of 10, 9, 8, 7s down to 6s. Hey, those people are at a 7 or a 6. By the end of tonight, you will be up and about, I promise, and you'll be up near an 8. Whatever those people are that are a 10, please send me in and tell me what you're doing to get a 10. Because in this stone age right now, as we're going through COVID, a 10 or a 9 or an 8 even is really, really good. And I'm wrapped that that's the case for you guys. Now, at any stage tonight, if the conversation gets a bit too tough for you, there is always a number to call. That number is this, 131114. That's the number for Lifeline. There is always someone there to pick up your call and talk to you. We hope it doesn't get to that stage, but would be remiss of us not to mention that for you tonight. Now, tonight, I've met a lot of blokes in my time, okay? I have met a lot of guys. This guy is one of the greats. He's an absolute ripper. I met this guy, his name's Anthony Brown. He was a professional golfer for many, many years. I met him at XGolf in Surrey Hills here in Melbourne, Victoria. We ran an event there. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce the great man, Mr. Anthony Brown. Hello, Brownie. Thanks for joining us tonight, mate. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, mate. No, good to be here. Good to be here. Great intro.
Oh, thanks, mate. Have I pumped you up enough?
You have, mate. Oh, but I'm more generally speaking, though, mate. That was great, mate. It was really good listening to all that. So, very well done.
You're a good man, mate. As we do each and every week. How was your day out of 10, bud?
Yeah, probably about a 7 for me, mate, today. Which I marked down there in the poll, and it was good to see those results come out actually, and see some guys having a good day, which was great. 7 for me, mate. How about yourself?
I had an 8, mate. I had a really good day. I had both my boys that work for me were at other jobs.
Yep.
I had SEN going on the radio all day, and mate, they never rang me. Nothing went pear-shaped, so I probably had a 9 to be fair. It was a good day today, so. Good inside and working away, and I'm just blessed to be able to still be working at this stage. So I'm very, very grateful at the moment. So, mate, let's get into you. Tell the people who are watching a bit about Mr. Anthony Brown.
A bit about me. So currently I'm the operations manager at XGolf Surrey Hills. So there will be a few guys listening in and watching in tonight that do know me and have come across me before. But basically married, father of 2, 2 boys, aged 10 and 6. So it takes up a fairly large chunk of my life, and especially at the moment with things as they currently are, homeschooling sort of the new norm for a lot of us. So we're doing that. The school that we're attending is going. Yeah, they've done a great job. So they've made life pretty easy. The first lockdown sort of version 1 was probably a little tougher. It was so new for everyone. But no, version 2 going really smoothly, and I've actually been really enjoying it. I'm not looking at a career change to being a teacher anytime soon, mate, but it's been good fun.
Mate, I think you're like me. You've got a much greater appreciation for teachers and what they do. And I said to someone the other day, next time they want a pay rise, I'm happy to go into the city and hold up a placard to give them more money.
Yeah, it was. It's been. I couldn't agree more, mate. They do an amazing job, and how much they do, and what's coming at them. I think sort of day to day, it's such an unknown for everyone, and that's all. That's true across every field. But the teachers are tasked with educating the young minds of Australia, and it's a tough job. So they're doing a great job.
Absolutely. Now, mate, you're a country boy. Grew up in the country.
Yep.
And in a family that was very keen golfers. Tell us about that and how you ended up becoming a professional golfer. Every young boy's dream who likes to swing the stick.
Yeah, look, it was. I grew up next to the golf course down at Yallourn out in Gippsland. It had where we were and where the golf course is just a bit out of town. So for me, look, as soon as the school bus dropped us off at the bottom, the road, the end of the road down the street, just run home, grab the clubs out, and just disappear across the road into the golf course and sort of vanish for however many hours that daylight would permit. So it was look. Golf just goes, especially on Dad's side of the family, but it just goes right through the family. So you sort of almost considered odd if you don't play golf in some form, whether it be socially or a bit more seriously. So it was just a bit of a natural progression for me to sort of get into it and take it on, and I just loved doing it. You could probably call it an obsession, and that happened pretty quickly. My grandmother actually was pretty influential in doing that, in getting that happening. I used to play a lot of golf with her, and we used to travel around and play the odd like mixed event here and there, which was great. So and she's not with us anymore, but she was a big part of me playing as well. She was a very good golfer herself, so that was pretty influential as well.
So at what point, at what age did you crack scratch?
I think I was about 14, maybe 14 going on 15 thereabouts.
Yep.
When I got to scratch, just playing there locally at Yallourn. So it was reasonably advanced sort of early on. But as with other sports, it so happens, you as good as you might think you are, there's always someone better, and there always was, which was great, and that was the thing with golf. I was pretty lucky to come through the junior and amateur ranks with some guys that are pretty much household names. I didn't get myself there, but I sort of had some pretty first-hand exposure to some guys that are pretty talented. So it was always a factor. Kind of being pushed along was always a great thing to have there.
We will touch on later on about the names in your pennant team, yep. And no wonder you won that. Now, mate, so at what age were you when you went, you know what, I'm pretty good at this, and this is what I want to do? What age were you then?
Yeah, so that would have been, mate, when I probably more so as a bit of a dream, I guess. 15, 16. Once I started getting into junior teams and squads, things like that, mate, and you start to go, hey, mate, maybe I could give this a red hot go, and then everything was just golf. That was just all that I used to think about. But in terms of actually going, right, I'm going to do this as a career, that probably came about a little bit later, but only maybe a couple of years after that, so sort of 18 or thereabouts, and actually thought, I think I've got a good show at genuinely being good at it. Probably like, you and I have had discussions before, mate, about sport and life and the different fields that people get into. And I think in golf and tennis, you see it a lot where people think that they're good, but there's good and then there's good. So as we mentioned earlier, like there's names and then there's names, and there's good and then there's good. They are different things.
So your pennant team consisted of who? Remind me.
So the year that we won, so it was my last year as an amateur, we won the pennant. So I played pennant in Melbourne for Commonwealth. And we had Mark Leishman playing at number 1, and then we had Jared Lyle playing at number 2.
Handy.
And then I just sort of was down the end at number 3, just to sort of hold up the middle tier. But no, look, it was that year we won the pennant pretty comfortably, as we rightly should have. And yeah, some people said it almost wasn't fair, but no, Leish and Jared, bless his soul. The two of them, they got themselves into the US and certainly made it right to the very top. And Leish really is in golf circles a genuine household name.
Absolutely. Now you were on the Asian Tour in 2006. Turned pro what year? 2004.
Yeah, so end of 04. So my first season as a pro was 05, mostly in Australia, but then got myself into the Asian system in 06 and had quite a few good years up there.
Now, I'd imagine when you just turned pro, right? So you're, what are we, this stage, we're 21 by now?
Yeah, about 22 I just turned, so early 20s, mate.
It's not as glamorous as it is on TV. I mean, you said to me the other day, you're sleeping in the car, you and your mates are sharing accommodation, you're just doing whatever you can to bust your ass to get as far as you can. It's not as glamorous as what we see on TV a lot.
No, it's not. I mean, look, it's a great lifestyle. There's no doubt about it. It really is a fantastic time and experieence. I guess it was traveling around the world, experiencing some different cultures and learning things that I guess you're not going to learn probably until later in life in a lot of situations. Having to fend for yourself and probably stand on your own 2 feet. It was fantastic, but it certainly isn't anywhere near as glamorous as what we would like to think. If you can get yourself right up into that upper echelon of players, then that's a bit of a different story. But there's a lot of hard yards. There's a lot of guys that no one will ever hear their name who are absolutely just fantastic players that they just didn't quite take their opportunity, or something happened along the way, injury or illness or family reasons, whatever it might be, that just maybe prevented them from taking that next step and getting to that next stage. There is that saying of it's harder to get off the tour than it is to get on. Once you're basically there, you're good to go. But getting to that point is tough.
So pretty stressful, I'd imagine. As we said to you last night, and we spoke to Grothy the other week. You are essentially self-employed. So if you don't make the money, you've got all these flights, you've got your coaches, you've got there's a whole lot of expenses. So the amount of pressure, teeing up on a Thursday morning, just trying to get through to make the cut. And as Sam said, you could be out of the game in 2 hours' time trying to get a plane to somewhere else so you can make the next tournament. So there's a lot of pressure. How was that? How'd you cope with that as a 22-year-old on the other side of the world?
Yeah, look, it is a lot of pressure, and it's where, again, what I was saying earlier about having to take real stock of where you genuinely are at. But I was fortunate enough to have a really good support network around me. Amazingly supportive parents, like right from back when I was 14, 15, coming to Melbourne to play junior tournaments. Dad would drive me up and back sometimes twice a week. He had his own businesses that he used to run, and all the way through to backing me financially to a certain degree, and but then also just having other family and things like going to places like Perth or wherever it was interstate, having contacts from parents friends or relatives or what have you. Like it all plays its part. And that's, I think, the it takes a bit of the stress out of it, just knowing that you've got good people around you. And you know, in going with the theme that we're on about, having that support network around you is just so crucial to any form of success.
Absolutely. Now, the crowning glory is, mate, you win the New South Wales Open in 2014, and you said to me the other night it was like a relief and a sort of a sense of, wow, I can do this. And then within 2 years, you're off the tour.
Yep. Yeah, look, I think you and I chatted about it last time we spoke. In winning the Open in 14, you know, I'd been a pro for quite a while at that stage, and
you're 32. 32 when you won.
Yeah, you go into these things thinking that, right, I'm doing this because I genuinely believe that, you know, I've got the ability to perform consistently and maybe do some great things. You know, I had some close calls and had a few sniffs of some very, very pleasing stuff happening. Yeah, and had some really good solid years where I had a lot of good play and really enjoyed it. But when I won, it was quite weird because it wasn't like this feeling of oh yes, like I just wanted to scream. It was just it genuinely was just relief. It was sort of like I knew I could do that, and I finally just did it. You know, it wasn't like this holy shit moment of, oh my god, what's just happened? I can't believe this. It was well, it's about friggin' time. and that's genuinely how I felt. Like I was just, the week after that, I was exhausted and because it was just this big sort of come down, I guess. And yeah, so it was a bit of a strange one for me, that win, mate. Yeah, it came at a bit of a weird time. You know, I hadn't really had a lot of good form just before it and didn't necessarily play that well after it. So yeah, look, it was only a matter of a couple of years later where I'd gotten to the point where I'd made the decision that I wasn't going to continue on playing full time.
And when you left, how did you feel when you left the tour? Did you feel supported? Because how was your mental state? Did you feel supported?
Mental state was I felt like I was making the right decision, so I felt probably good about that. Definitely some uncertainty as to what was next. It was a bit of, I know I should be doing this, and I want to do this, but what am I going to do? What's going to happen next? What now? What do I do?
Because the boys would have only been young then, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they're both pretty young. So yeah, look, it wasn't an easy decision, but I remember it pretty clearly. I was playing a small event and just was getting ready to play, and I was sort of sitting there about to kind of go out, and I just thought to myself, no, I've had enough. I've realised, it just hit me, like I just was sitting there, and I was like, yeah, I'm done.
Wow.
I've had it. So it wasn't like I was dreading going out onto the course, or you know, it was just a feeling of having had enough. You know, like how many times can you walk through a doorway and hit your head on the top of the door and keep doing it? You know, you eventually you're gonna have to duck and weave. Or something.
Go, that hurts.
Yeah. So yeah. You know, it just got to the point where I just felt that, right, I'm done in terms of being at it full time. So
moving forward, you start working at XGolf, and that's where we meet for the first time. So myself and Richard come down, who's another board member of 100 Words, come down and run at a men's health event at Surrey Hills for about 70 blokes, and you and I get talking, and I can tell within a very short period of time that this is something that you're interested in. And it had a bit of an effect on you, didn't it?
It did, mate. It absolutely did. It was. I mean, at first, obviously, when we met, I mean, I had no idea what you're about. I'm like, what 100 Words? What is it? And yourself and Rich, you explained to me and to Chris, you know, what it is that you do and what you're hoping to achieve out of the evening and what the purpose of doing it was all about. So, and it obviously was initially just more so intrigued and glad to help and thought it was a very, very worthwhile cause, and then just started probably observing a little bit. I tend to do that a little. I'll sort of sit back a little bit and just watch what people do and just sort of see what people are about, and then kind of decide whether or not to get involved. And just really enjoyed the whole night and just saw how things. I mean, you've said it to me a heap of times, mate. You know, a lot of the guys are just normal blokes, you know, but there's a common theme there, and that was probably something that really hit me was just the guys that were coming in were just so different from each other. It wasn't like there was a type of bloke walking in to support it. It was anyone and everyone, and it was, you could see that it was like, yeah, this is not just something that's a little bit of a little passion project in the backyard. It was something that I thought, yeah, this is some good stuff, and I really like what I'm hearing, and you can see how powerful it was. And there were some guys on the night telling some pretty emotional stories, and there was that one in particular that we've spoken about that I sort of sat back and thought, oh, shit, that's pretty powerful, pretty incredible stuff, and yeah, from there, mate, just you and I have chatted a few times, and it's just sort of built up a bit more, and we've just seen a bit more of each other recently via Zoom, and it's been really good.
So I remember after that, probably about 6 to 8 months after that, I'm out down at Coles Local, and I'm walking back to my car, and I see you walk under the people who know in Surrey Hills, walking under the train line, and I'm like, Brownie, g'day, mate. As I do. How's your day out of 10? And you tell me what happened.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I said to you that it was about a 3, and for some reason you just got me right at the right time. You asked me the right question, and I had a few things that were going on. Not so much me personally, but I had some stuff happening around me that. Maybe I was struggling a bit to kind of process and know what to do, perhaps. And I just remember just having tears in my eyes, and you used to look at me like what? Oh, hang on a second, I'm going to probe here, and you know, you asked me why and what was going on, and yeah, and I think it was, you just got me right on the right. At the right time, right question. You were the right person to ask it, because you kind of stood in front of me, and you weren't going to let me go anywhere until I gave you the answer that you not that you wanted to hear, but I gave you an answer that you were happy to hear, that, you know, and we're going to let me walk away having told you the truth about where I was at on the day. So yeah, it was a pretty powerful conversation, mate, and it reinforced to me what we just spoke about earlier, what you guys are doing, and yeah, and look, it was a good experience to go through, and it helped me to sort of be able to think to myself, right, I feel comfortable asking other people this question, and as we've chatted about, I've since then done that.
So I remember the one of the bit that gets me about this, and it gets me every time this happens, is the speed in which, when you ask the question, how's your day out of 10, and someone's having a really shit time, how quickly they say 2 and 3. It's just bang. It's almost like, you know, when you hook up the hose and you turn the tap on, but you don't let it out the other end. The hose is really, really tight.
Yep.
But then you turn the pressure off, and you can play with the hose. It's just that release of pressure to be able. And your face was just like, and then you broke down into tears. So, and I know that had an effect on you, and you've since, because you were really concerned about a mate of yours, weren't you? You weren't sure how to approach it.
Yeah, I was, mate. Yeah, I had a mate who was going through a bit of a tough time, and yeah, look, I wasn't really sure how to approach it the right way, and I'd been, without going into too much sort of personal stuff about someone else, but there had been concerns about their behaviour and potential behaviour and things like that. So yeah, it was sort of weighing on me a bit as to what to do next. And I think that's where some of that relief kind of came from, because it wasn't so much me personally, that it wasn't myself that was the cause of the way I was feeling. It was that and a couple other things that had been happening around me that that I just wasn't really sure about what to do next with.
And now you've gone and used that, having feel comfortable and felt the experience about it, and gone and put that into practice with some close mates of yours. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So look, recently I've had a chance to just use that exact approach. I've got some mates of mine in a group chat, as a lot of us have. Which is a great way, I think, to communicate. As long as there's someone sort of keeping on, pushing it and making sure that messages aren't just being ignored and things like that. That's where and look, I just basically have these two other guys that I'm good mates with. I just shot them both a message a little while back and just asked them for and like you said, it's not asking how you going, mate. It's actually asking them out of 10. How's the week been? How's the day going? And getting an actual answer. And I got an answer back recently from a mate that said 2, and pretty much it just gave me that opening to go bang, right. I want to tell me about it. What's happening? I want to know why. And and he opened up, which was really good. And I think it straight away made all of us sort of feel better. I felt like I was able to help someone in what can maybe sometimes feel like only a small way, but he was feeling much better after it, and sort of thanked me afterwards for plain and simply just asking him.
And I know you put it on your there was another mate in on it as well, and he was like, "Oh my God, that's a great way of asking." And I think he's since gone on and sort of used the same method as well. Yeah,
it's really powerful stuff, mate. And I know I'm preaching to the converted with you, mate. But I've just been really impressed by having that. It really is a tool. It's a strategy to use, mate. And I think it's a pretty powerful one. It's not overly intrusive as an initial question, and I think that's why you do get so many good responses. It's just it seems like a bit of a sort of, it's just a pretty casual question. And then you get out of it though, you certainly can get a fair bit more out of people.
I love it when you ask it and people go, "Yeah, good." And I go, "No. How out of 10? What do you mean?" Okay. So from 1 being shit and 10 being amazing, where do you sit? Oh, and then they tell you, and then it's the pause that gets me, because they actually have to think about it.
Yep.
And quite often they go, and you can see them sort of go, "Wow, I probably thought I was an 8, but really, to be honest, I'm probably a 6." So it's look, we find it's really, really easy for those who are struggling to use it as a tool to ask their mates, and then their mates ask them in return, and you get a lot of information really quick. And regardless of what the answer is, be it 1 through 10, there's always a follow-up, like, "Oh, how long have you been feeling like that for?" So, it's man, I'm so glad that we had that chance meeting in Surrey Hills, and we've had a lot of chats since. And you're someone that I think wants to sort of get involved, and we're wrapped to get you involved as much as we can. So now, mate, we've got a few questions here.
Yep.
Now, if I don't mention this, mate, the next time I have dinner with the rest of my family, it's going to turn to shit. My sister has jumped on, and she said she was the person that said she was one of the people that said she was a 10. She said, "I'm 10 out of 10 today because I'm still working. A huge challenge for so many people at the moment. Sometimes a 10 is the simple things, like I'm just able to work."
Yep.
And I think that's a really good attitude to have. So many people aren't working at this point in time. So, I think that's a good one. Good on your little sister. We've got another one here, mate, from a good mate of mine, Brett. How much pressure does a pro golfer put on family life, and how did you manage that when you had a bad day or a bad week or a bad month? Because the kids were – so you had the 2 boys while you were a pro, and your beautiful wife Charmaine's here, and you're on the other side of the country. How hard's that?
Yeah, it's tough, mate. And we've got really supportive parents as well. And my I've got two sisters, and the oldest of the two sisters was constantly around at our place as well. But that was probably for me where some of it did get difficult. Is that as a professional sports person, it's such a selfish endeavour in that you've just got to focus on yourself so much that it puts pressure not only on wife, children, but it's the extended support group as well that have to adapt, and everyone sort of has to work around you a bit. And when you're leaving for 3 or 4 weeks in a row, and there's 2 kids under 4 years old in the house, and your wife's still trying to work a few days a week, or even just literally, if they're not working, being with the kids just 24/7, it gets tough. So it puts a lot of pressure on family. It's look, as I said, great lifestyle, great experience, and I was very fortunate to do it for as long as I did, and loved it. But it can get very grueling at times, and that was something that I definitely weighed up.
I can imagine. So did coming from the bush and coming to the big smoke as a 16-year-old kid going to the Institute of Sport, did that sort of toughen you up to be able to deal with that sort of things? I hate using that phrase, toughen up. I've got to find another one. But did that play a role in being able to deal with that sort of stuff?
It did, mate. Look, I'd moved out of home by the time I was 19, so living with some friends and renting and at the institute. So I always had something to keep me occupied. It wasn't like I was spending hours at a time just sitting in a room staring at a television and not doing anything. I was always active and busy and had things to do, and had good people giving me good advice and building healthy habits, helping me build healthy habits sort of every single day. So that was good. But look, there's, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of it that it's such a selfish sport, like tennis. We've spoken about Grothy, and I actually played golf behind him at the start of this year. Would you believe? But look, it's just such it can be a very brutal sport at times, and so look, it certainly had its moments, it had its ups and downs, that's for sure.
Mate, another question here from Carl. What was the reaction of some of the other golfers that were your mates when you announced it? Must have been a mixed bag when you said you were going to give it away.
Yeah, it definitely was a mixed bag. I think, though, probably in my friendship group that I had in terms of golfers, more so specifically the professional golfers, I had kids a bit earlier than what a lot of them did. So a lot of them now have kids that are younger than mine. And I think they understood straight away. I didn't really have anyone try and talk me out of it or anything like that at all. But yeah, look, it was an interesting one. It was sort of in the middle of the year. A lot of guys were away traveling themselves, and nothing much was sort of. I chatted to a few guys about it, and they just asked me why, and I didn't really feel like I needed to justify myself too much, to be honest, mate. So that conversation didn't sort of get entertained too much. I did play a little bit again at the end of the year. I still had status on the tour, so I was still eligible to play all of the Australian Open and PGA and those sort of events, mate. So I did play a little bit at the very end of that year. But yeah, had other things sort of going on by that stage, which made it a bit easier. Like, it was, those last few events were more just purely playing for enjoyment as much as anything, and just sort of having a bit of a send off, I suppose, myself.
Mate, I've got another question here from my good mate Tony. Good on you, Tony, for getting on board tonight. Now, glasses on. When you gave it away, did you think, gee, what the hell's next? What am I going to do? That must have been a pretty scary sort of thought.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. What am I going to do next?
Good question, Tony. Good question.
Any idea of what I was going to do? Yeah, great question, Tony. Yeah, look, I didn't know what I was going to do, and it was having gone down the road that I went down of pursuing golf from such a young age. And when we were in the institute, having the focus just solely being on golf and performance, and then we're at the gym and we're doing playing and away for tournaments and what have you. There wasn't really any, I guess, at the time, so any perceived time to be able to do any other qualifications or, it's sort of like if you're learning a trade, you don't sort of go, I'll do a little bit of accounting on the side just in case I decide that I'm not going to be a plumber or whatever it might be. It was sort of a bit like that. It was like, right, this is what I'm choosing to focus on. So I'm going all in, giving it everything. And it was, that was just, the choice that I'd made. And I didn't expect anyone to sort of bail me out. But in saying that though, mate, one of the things that I certainly learned from it though was, and look at with the way that things are currently, it's a tough time for everyone at the moment, and you just got to feel for people. But one of the biggest things I learned from it is that you've got to be able to ask for help.
Yeah. Another one here. Now, we've spoken about this. Being at XGolf, you've seen it happen where guys will come in, 4 guys will come in, and they'll start hitting. Suddenly it'll go quiet, and they're not hitting anymore. They're just sitting around talking. Did that sort of, when that sort of first started to happen, did that sort of blow you away that it suddenly didn't become about the golf?
Yeah, look, it's a big. I see it a lot. I really do see it a lot, and you see it mostly on a weekend. You'll see it on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday during the day, early afternoon, late morning. The way that the XGolf venues are set up, they're great for a little small group of people, guys, girls, whatever it's going to be, in a group there, fairly intimate setting if you want it to be. But of course, you can sort of spread out more if you want to go that way. But what you do often see are groups of guys getting together in groups of 3 and 4, and they're there for an event, for a debrief on the week. And it happens a lot. Guys will get in and they're keen to get going first time. Well, this bloke hasn't been XGolf, he hasn't been. Or one guy has. Yep, I'll show them how to do it. No worries. Get them all set up, get them off and racing, get a drink in their hands, something to eat, and then all of a sudden, halfway through, there's just nothing. There's talk, but there's no golf being played. No one's standing in the simulator hitting a shot, and that's where it is great in that regard. In that it's a great environment, great spot for guys to sort of sit in and just start having a chat. You've got your own little area, and just go for it from there. You really do see it a lot, mate.
Yeah, I mean, I know that all the boys at 100 Words we have all individually taken blokes down there. It's just such a chilled environment and the golf is secondary. And I know I took a couple of guys down there, and as soon as we walked in and we hit a couple of balls, and they're like, "We're not here for golf, are we?" And I'm like, no, we're not. Get a beer, let's have a pizza, we'll have a chat. Now, the other thing, mate, I know that I think it was last year, one of the XGolf members, and I know this is hard to talk about, one of the XGolf members did take his own life. And I know that had a huge effect on yourself and Chris, the owner, and all the boys down there that played in the league. That must have been a really, really tough time. Yeah,
it was tough, mate. It was very hard. The gentleman was, and look, I've heard similar stories where the person who did end up taking their life was this seemingly happy, like out there, like, just ball of fun, bubbly and loud and having a laugh and having a beer and patting everyone on the back, and that's what you saw. Anyway, Yeah, unfortunately, it ended in fairly tragically, and it was just such a shock, and that was one of the things for me that I was quite blown away by that one. I just couldn't believe it at first. There was something so eerie about it that it was sort of it was like it was a dream. It was like, did that actually just happen? Or yeah, and here was a guy that this guy. So he used to come up and stand up near the bar, like when you'd sort of be going about your business on a league night. He'd come up and he'd have some new horrifically filthy joke that you had to hear, and he'd start telling you about this and that, and always having a laugh, and then it suddenly just hit, and yeah, it was quite an amazing thing to witness. Just seeing the effect it has on friends and close friends and his work colleagues and people that even just the guys that he'd met only weeks prior through X League that were just like, it was like everyone had just been punched in the head, like whack, like what was that? Everyone was just dazed. So yeah, it was quite a trying time for a lot of people, and it's quite a sad story. And then when you get some of the background to it, it was it was very difficult for him, obviously with what he'd been through. So yeah, tough around that one.
I think the tough thing about that is the perception of that guy, and I think I met him once. His perception is like, big energy in the room, big guy, lots of fun, always got a smile on his face, life of the party type thing. So they're the guys that don't get asked, how's your day out of 10? Because those guys, the perception is that they're flying.
Yes.
But people don't ask them. So they're the people that I ask first. Like, and you'd be surprised how many of those just wear that as a mask of trying to portray that perception that they're okay. And I think it's a real good lesson learned that just because it looks okay doesn't mean it is, and it's okay not to be okay. So, mate, thank you so much. Now, we've got another cheeky question here, and I know you can see it because I saw you smirk before. Now, my friend Brett, I don't know if we can go with this, Brett, but I'll put it out there. But you're under no obligation, Mr. Brown. All right?
Ask it. Go on.
What was the real deal with Robert Allenby's story when he said he was mugged and put in the boot of a car? Brett, you can't ask that, but I will.
Oh, you can ask that question. Look, I don't have an answer.
Does Robert?
Well, I was just about to say something along those lines, mate. But funny thing is, the year that I stopped playing, mate, the very last round of golf that I played in the Australian PGA, I was actually paired with him, and as well, I saw the draw, and look, to be honest, I was really looking forward to it because everyone just hears the horror stories. I remember watching him as a kid, and seeing all there was a lot of highlights. He was a fantastic golfer, but there was a lot of lowlights as well. He didn't get called didn't have the nickname of the monster for no reason. But to play with, he was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. Couldn't have been a better guy to play with. He was courteous, polite. He was the opposite of everything that you'd heard about him. It was great. He was really good fun. You could see that he still was a very good player. He had some moments of just sheer brilliance that were still with him. But being the one and only time that I played with him, I wasn't really too keen to ask him what happened. Does he still holiday in Hawaii or anything like that, or which is the best surf break over there? I didn't sort of open with any of that. Mate,
on your last round, throw caution to the wind, mate. Who gives a shit? Just could have asked him anything.
Yeah,
in prime time.
I had a little bit more tact than that, mate. But yeah. Anyway.
Brownie, you're a good man. I've just got one other question. Now, I know my mate Matt Wenham is watching. Now, have you ever had a caddy? Right? Have you ever had a caddy for you kick your ball? Kick the ball? No, not kick the ball. I've had caddies
nearly step on snakes multiple times. I've had caddies get me penalised for doing the wrong thing a couple of times. But not kick the ball though, mate. I never really came across that one. So yeah, it was.
Well, I did that for my dear friend Matt. I was caddying for a dear friend of mine in a little tournament, and walking down the fifth hole, and he'd gone birdie, birdie, par birdie. So he's on fire, and he's hit one slightly to the left, and I'm walking down. I couldn't see because I didn't have my glasses on, and all I feel is bang, and I'm like, shit, I think that was a ball. And I've kicked his ball about 3 foot in front of me, and this other player's gone, you just kicked the ball. And I'm like, oh, no. So anyway, we get to the end of the hole, and he's had 10. And he goes, I go, what did we have? And we had 10. I go, no, I had 2 and you had 8. Fair to say, he didn't talk to me for about 8 holes, and he lost the tournament by 3 shots.
Yeah, that's
so I know he's watching tonight, Matt. I know you'd love to hear that story again because you bring it up every time I see it. Brownie, mate, thank you so much for your time tonight. Have you got someone in mind that you are going to ring tomorrow night at 8 to make part of your routine?
Yeah, I'm going to check back in with a couple of the guys that I've I was explaining about earlier, and just seeing how their week and their days are going. It is something that we'd sort of done a bit less formally through with our group message, as I know a lot of guys do like to do that. But yeah, it's just a better way to do it now, mate, and just a bit more of a direct question, gets the answer out pretty quickly, and and they appreciate it. But no, that's what I'm going with, mate. How about yourself?
Good on you, mate. Mate, thank you so much for your time tonight. I love chatting to you, and I can see a little pairing here. I can see you, me, and Grothy at Commonwealth.
Yeah,
I'll ring Grothy during the week and see if we can tee that up.
Yeah, mate.
I tell you what, this would be nice. This is a question without notice. We might even be able to have you, me, Grothy, and one of our 100 Words members. We might try and do something like that.
Yeah, that sounds good, mate. That sounds good. He gives a good belt. You can see why he could serve it down at 300 k's an hour. He's a strong boy. Absolutely,
goes all right, mate. Thanks again for your time tonight. I really appreciate it, and I will chat to you later on this week.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Turts. I really appreciate it, mate. It's been good to chat.
You're a good man.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Brownie. See you, buddy. Hey, what a good egg he is. What a life, being on the tour for 10 years, winning the New South Wales Open, and then jumping off, and just, you never know where life's going to take it. He's a really, really good egg. Now, next week, we have a good friend of mine. Now, at the moment, we're all going through a tough time. It's crisis management in its utmost at the moment. So next week, we have a crisis management expert, great friend of mine, Grant Chisnell. Chiz is an absolute rep. He's going to come on and give us some really good advice, leadership advice about how to manage a crisis in your business, your home life, everywhere, part of your life. He'll be able to add some value. So I'm really looking forward to catching up with Chiz next week, so don't miss that. As we do each and every week, off the top, Shelley Wood, Splice Communications. She is an absolute jet. We love Shell. Anything you need done in your business that relates to comms, websites, you name it, Shelley is one for you. Splice Communications. To Matt Atkin at Atlas Brokers. He's an absolute jet. Anything you need to do, finance any equipment, home loans, you name it. Matt Atkin at Atlas Brokers. They do a great job, and they do a hell of a lot of work for us, and thank you so much. And to the only tennis show in this country, dear friend of mine, Brett Phillips, who runs the First Serve with Sam Groth. They do a great job in the tennis community. He does a hell of a lot for us, and we could not be where we are without him. To all the men and members of 100 Words, thank you so much for tuning into the show. I love doing the show. To our producer, Matt Walton, who's a board member and an absolute jet of a bloke, does so much work behind the scenes, and I do not thank him enough. Walter, you're a star. Thank him, buddy. So to all the men in 100 Words and the women, thank you so much. Just keep batting up each and every day, support each other, and make part of your daily routine this. Ring a mate and say, "G'day, mate, how's your day out of 10?" You'll be so surprised at the answer, okay? Just because you think someone's going all right doesn't necessarily mean they are, okay? Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope your week coming up is a 10 out of 10. I love you a lot. Take care. See you soon.